Everyone, thank you very much, Lennox, for that very nice introduction. Brings back very pleasant memories of our associations. My topic is titled 10 Portals of Entry to Potentially Fruitful Analysis and Discourse on Labor and Human Capital Development. Which is the button? That button. Yes, my assignment on this panel is to present a few remarks on the theme of the panel, which is Labor and Human Capital Development. My remarks are written without knowledge of the contents of the papers to be presented. I did not have the opportunity to see the manuscripts or the abstracts. Thus, my remarks are on a selection of topics which I think would get the attention of panelists presenting papers on the captioned theme in the context of the Caribbean region. Let me explain this term, portals of entry, first of all. The analogy is to doors to many rooms in a mansion. You open some doors and enter, and you find nothing useful for facilitating the task at hand, which is analysis of the themes relevant to labor and human capital development. You enter another room through its portal, and that room is full of statistical data, case study analysis, etc., which can provide models, which can provide ideas for the analysis you want to undertake. I will now list the rubrics on the portals of the rooms with potentially useful data and so on, with high potential for useful analysis and results. Then I will explain each rubric briefly. First rubric, calculations of rates of return to investment in human capital. I'll just give them 1 to 10 and then explain briefly what I mean by each of them. Secondly, how should human capital expenditure be shared among the individual, the firm who employs him or her, and the state? Third one, impact of human capital on poverty in a country. Fourth one, impact of human capital development on reduction of unemployment in a country. Fifth, human capital development and gender disparities with special reference to income in a country. 6, human capital and the supply of labor for managed migration. 7, human capital development and escape from the informal activity trap. 8, human capital and the labor supply, labor demand mismatch problem. 9, human capital development and the youth unemployment problem. And the final one is, does social capital, like human capital, contribute to economic growth? So those are my rubrics. And what I'm saying is, if I was still involved in heavy research, I would certainly be looking at these topics and trying to find resources, sources of data and other information which could lead, to some exploration of these topics and probably some findings that might be useful to policymakers. Let me go now to brief explanations of the issues. Calculations of rates of return to investment in human capital. Since 1973, Gary Becker and subsequently Jacob Mincer and others have contributed to this very exciting area of economic investigation. And there are, I would say, probably hundreds of theses and thousands of papers, trying to make calculations of the returns to development in particular situations in different countries and comparisons of those countries sometimes. That's an area I think, that could still do with some work in the Caribbean, because while we are aware and we accept that you get returns to investment in human capital, we need to have more precise information about the nature of the returns, the level of returns, and so on. Justify probably more investment and so on. The second topic that I would like to, if I'd be around, still, to investigate is how should the cost of human capital be shared among the individual, the firm who employs him or her, and the state? And this intrigues me because GATE, the cost expenditure on GATE is entirely almost from the state. And you wonder whether the persons who benefit from that expenditure, the individual and the employing firms, might not want to contribute a bit, to that source of capital or of investment, which would enable the state to widen the investment further. Third one, the impact of human capital development on poverty in the country. And there's a raging debate about the extent to which countries are not developed if you don't see improvements in the poverty situation, work by Sen and people like that. And it's a very intriguing and, I would say, exciting thought, that we should be able to link human capital development and the impact on reduction of poverty in some of the Caribbean countries. In other words, you ask the question, would more attention to human capital development lead to reduction of the poverty levels in this country? Impact of human capital on reduction of unemployment in the country, a similar kind of exercise. Would the upgrading of skills of the population, of the labor force, lead to accession of those members to jobs where they add value, and thereby reduce the unemployment level in the country? This one should be of interest to all of us, no matter which gender we belong to. Human capital development and gender disparities, which are related to income. As you know, in most countries, including the Caribbean, there used to be and may still be, some disparity in the levels of remuneration to females and males for the same work.